If you see that broken lamp back there, yeah, I broke that 4 days ago. And that's how my life is going. Picture this. It's the class of 2020.
Coronavirus
is all around, and they didn't get a graduation. Those poor souls. Me. I didn't get a graduation, and I'm still salty about it. But that's not the point. It was the summer of 2020. We couldn't really do anything because of
coronavirus.
So because I couldn't really do anything for that summer, I decided to download the clock app. Yep, that clock app. And I was scrolling. I kept scrolling, and then I stumbled upon the video. It was a brown tinted video. It was about like 10 seconds of a Gothic church in, I believe, France. And there was this like amazing classical music and stuff like that. And in the description, there was a hashtag Dark Academia. I didn't know what Dark Academia was, so I just scrolled past it. But that video never really left my mind. So a couple days later, I went back onto the clock app, and I decided to type it in, Dark Academia. And when I say that my mind was blown, my mind was literally blown about the absolute romanticization of the study of the classics and writing and reading poetry and stuff like that. That was all under the Dark Academia talk on the clock app. Now, if you don't know what Dark Academia is, long story short, it's basically a romanticization of the study of the classics, so Greek and Roman, and reading and writing poetry, and also the study of the arts. Keep in mind the arts. Fast forward to fall 2021, and I couldn't find any classes. I had an academic advising meeting, and my advisor basically told me, hey, you need to take more credits or you're not going to graduate on time. And I was like, cool, I will definitely do that. But guess what? My school kind of sucks at registration, especially for sophomores and freshmen. So by the time I got to registering for my classes, there were no classes left. But then I stumbled upon the Holy Grail. History of Western Art 2. The description was pretty simple. A survey class of painting, sculptures, and architectures from the Proto-Renaissance to modern art. And I was like, a survey class about the study of painting, sculptures, and architecture. How hard could it be? I took a world history class in high school. We briefly, I wouldn't even say briefly, we barely even touched Greek and Roman and skipped over all of that and went straight to Egypt. But we still learned very tiny bit about Greek and Roman, and I read the Odyssey in high school. So I was like, I guess I'll take that class. And when I walked into the first day of class, there were about 30 or 60 people in a big lecture room. And when I say in the next couple of weeks that I fell hard for this class, I fell hard for this class. It was one of the most amazing classes I have ever taken in my entire life. Literally. In high school, I was a history nerd, like an American history nerd. But by the time I got into college and I took like normal American history, I was like completely over it. So when I say that the art history completely changed my life, it completely changed my life. When I didn't know anything about art history before I took history of Western art. But when I slowly started realizing that art history and Dark Academia both go together, because it's also a big concept in Dark Academia about the study of the arts, I was like, so it is a part of Dark Academia. And then I started taking more art history classes. So we have 2 sections of History of Western Art. We have History of Western Art 2 and History of Western Art 1. It doesn't matter which way you go, as long as you take both classes. So I took History of Western Art 2 first, and I took History of Western Art 1, and now I'm in History of Asian Art. So I basically kept taking art history classes because it was one of the most amazing classes I've literally taken in college. And I even jokingly asked my professor of History of Western Art 2, like, hey, can I start telling people I do art history on the side? And she was like, sure, I don't have a problem with that. And then I started telling people I do art history on the side because I can't double major in it because I'm not going to be a super senior in college. So that's why I do art history on the side. Oh, right. And I'm going to take art history next semester also. So that's fun. Fast forward to the summer of 2022. I was trying to find a job and trying to find internships and stuff like that, but I was already like drowning in summer classes and stuff like that. So I was like, I'm not going to get a job. Going back to the clock app, there's another subsection in the clock app called Book Talk. And when I say the first video I watched in Book Talk, it completely blew me away. This woman basically read the description of a book, but morphed it and changed it into like as if she herself was a character in the book. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but if I find a video, I'll put it in the description. But when I say that video completely changed me, like, that completely changed me. And, like, she literally read the description as if, like, it was her own life. I thought it was, like, going to be one of those, like, story time videos, but no. She literally just read, like, a really great description of, like, a book. And then I started following Book Talk. So going back to the summer of 2022, I couldn't find a job I couldn't even get an internship. So I was taking summer classes also. So to occupy myself, besides like taking summer classes and stuff like that, I started reading. I read tons of books in high school. Like I said, I read the Odyssey in high school and stuff like that. So I started rereading those books. I reread The Brave New World. I reread Macbeth, and there was a couple other books. But yeah, besides those books, like when I finished rereading those books, I went to get more books, and when I got more books, I got The Secret History. I've read Dracula. I've read Milk and Honey. Now, a thing about Milk and Honey, I have friends who are really into poetry, and they also write poetry. And when I read Milk and Honey, I gotta say, I personally would not call that like an actual poetry book, because the stories in Milk and Honey, they sound more like those Instagram, like Pinterest poetry. But I guess it's to each their own, I guess. Now, the book I'm currently reading right now is We Were Villains. And it's basically The Secret History, but instead of the kids studying the classics with one professor, it's a group of thespians, Shakespearean actors, and it's basically the same plot as The Secret History, but I honestly think it sort of lives up to it, but it sort of doesn't also. But like, if We Were Villains is literally a homage to The Secret History. I think in like page like 65 or 66, like they make like a joke about like the Balkanal in The Secret History, so that's pretty interesting. But I'm going to quickly name off every single book that I have here with me at college. Ready? Go. Milk and Honey, The Oedipus Cycle, Brave New World, Dracula, The Maidens, A Little Life, The Secret History, and If We Were Villains. And I also have my AP style book for my journalism class, but that isn't even a book because it's literally a thesaurus, a dictionary for like journalism terms and stuff like that. That's how I got back into reading. Now, like, growing up also, like, I always wanted to read, but I struggled with reading, so I couldn't really read. But, like, when I taught myself how to eventually read, I used to read a lot. Like, believe it or not, I used to read a lot. And, like, I enjoyed reading the books in, like, high school and stuff like that because, like, of the way, like, I just had really good English teachers, and I never realized that. But my English teachers in high school and stuff like that made me realize that made me like enjoy reading and stuff like that. So I read, but then I started getting more and more busier, so I stopped reading. But because of last summer 2022, I started reading again, like books I wanted to.